Hello and welcome back to the Thought Leader Recruitment Podcast. I'm Sam Bylett, and today I'm joined by Asma Dinat, Operations Director at Bolt Global Talent Solutions. Asma, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Sam. Thanks for having me.
Really good to have you here. So, tell me a bit more about Bolt Talent, and I'm curious how you guys kind of got into the whole recruitment thing.
Yeah, so it's an interesting story. We are based on a little island called Mauritius, just in the Indian Ocean off of Africa. I am South African by nationality, and my business partner is Mauritian, South African, and lives in Seattle. And she was like, listen, if you're willing to start a business, you need to move over to Mauritius. And I was like, oh, that's not too bad. Exiled to an island. I could deal with that. So, yeah, we basically started out in 2018 as a little boutique recruitment agency. We were kind of fed up of the red tape of having corporate careers over the past 25 years and decided, it's time for us to put our own fingerprint and do things our own way. And that's really how the agency started. And Mauritius was kind of the ideal location in terms of operationally from a cost perspective, and also being pretty politically stable, economically stable, and having amazing views like this in the beach.
Beautiful. And I've been following Bolt's journey, and it seems like you've grown pretty quickly across different markets. What's that been like? Was it always the plan to go global so fast?
Not at all. I think things never go as planned or as you plan them. Soon after we started, COVID hit, like for many organizations. And I had actually never met Vanessa in person for the first 4 years that we ran the business together. So everything was virtual. Mauritius went into a really hard lockdown 2 weeks into COVID, where even the airports were shut down. So I was literally trapped in Mauritius, and all you could do was basically work, to keep yourself sane. And it was COVID, I think, was the biggest year for us. We had the biggest demands for IT talent. The world just realized how important IT talent was. And it was our busiest time and busiest year. And off the back of that, we had really big software companies from Canada, from America, looking to set up global centers of excellence in Mauritius as their back office. And that's basically how we were launched from a little 3-person agency to having to scale to like 25 people to support these companies' recruitment growth and requirements. But it was really interesting with Vanessa sitting in Seattle and her having access to the tech corridor and basically like showing what Mauritius was capable of doing in terms of the workforce we have here, which is bilingual French and English, and the level of education that you get here in the talent market. There were just so many possibilities that it was so attractive to companies looking to set up here. And we got our really first big RPO with a tech company that needed to scale to like over 230 people for a little island like Mauritius, where the population is like 1.3 million people. And we have about 300,000 of those people probably in the workforce. People looked at us and said, that's crazy. How are you going to do that? Does the talent even exist? But like any challenge, you have to say yes and figure out as you go along how to do it. We had never done a large scale RPO before. So yeah, it was a lot of learning, but loads of fun. And we actually managed to over deliver. So we delivered the 230 people in 18 months instead of 24 months. So yeah, nice success story for us.
Yeah, it's a fascinating story, and that growth is super impressive. So who are you typically working with, and are there any certain types of companies that just seem to click with better than others?
I think we've gone through looking at what our avatar client really is. We've tried to like pin it down. It's quite difficult as a small agency, and I think like the transition from a small to medium agency our business was focused around small to medium enterprises just in the local market in Mauritius. But since then, we've done so many large scale RPOs, like 100 people in 4 months' time or 75 people in 3 months' time. So we don't like to kind of narrow down our client database. We say yes to everything, be it like one little headhunting role, or one senior executive role, or 100 roles. Typically, I think we like to say that we are a RPO niche agency for clients who are between the 200 to 300 headcount mark. Yeah, but that being said, it's like any agency, when you get work, there's no ways you're going to say no.
And what are the real challenges your clients are wrestling with right now? Because I imagine what they say and what they need are actually two different things.
I think it does come down to the candidate driven market. So, for example, in Mauritius, which is quite a unique situation, that unemployment is only at 0.04%, which is really low. Obviously, that's not indicative of the rest of the world, where you do have like the flip side of that, where unemployment is really high. But I think it just comes down to companies understanding what type of candidates they're looking for, the skill level, and also understanding like globally that skill levels differ based on where you are in the world, and just adjusting your expectations to that candidate market and understanding the market, being patient, and knowing that most of the time you won't find a candidate that maybe fits your bill 100%. But if you're willing to invest in a person who shows ambition and the right attitude and drive, that it could definitely work out.
Yeah, sure. And obviously the job market, it does feel real brutal right now for candidates. How are you helping them actually stand out and break through the noise?
So for us, what worked really well during COVID was the use of video interviews and always like leveraging tech. We were the first agency in Africa to launch video interviews during COVID, when people couldn't physically attend interviews. And we feel like it definitely has given our candidates the edge. So when we send a CV out to a client, they've got a nice little preview of, a trailer of the person answering questions or talking about what they're passionate about. I think that makes all the difference when you, instead of just reading of black and white, you get a sense and feel of what the person is about, their values, their passions. And we feel that it has definitely helped our candidates stand out in a pretty big market.
Yeah, I love that. So you send the candidate over and there's like a little video of them, like a minute video just talking about some questions or something. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's really cool. I've not heard of that before. I see a stat floating around the other day. I think it was 76% of hiring managers think that there is a talent shortage. Do you buy that, or do you think companies are being a bit too picky or looking in the wrong places?
I definitely think that they probably looking in the wrong places. I think definitely companies sometimes just rely on posting and praying. And we know as in the recruitment agency that you really can't go with, just posting a job advert and hoping that the right person will apply. We know that passive candidates are probably the best, or usually always the best candidates in the market. And it just takes that consistent reach out day in, day out, of like making sure that by sourcing, you have covered all your baselines to make sure that you've covered the total market and not just relying on a really small candidate pool. I think that makes all the difference. Like, you've got to do the hard work, the research, the sourcing, and totally map out the market to know that you've really got the top talent.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that. And what are the biggest mistakes you see companies making when trying to attract new talent?
For me, I think it's the transparency upfront. A lot of the time, it's the disconnect between HR and the actual hiring manager. So, them not having maybe a good handle on what the job description is really about, like spending time on the job description, understanding the job description, going through it in detail, making sure that it aligns with the business needs. Because often HR is just going on what the business is telling them. And the business is usually always so strapped for time and it's always reactive. So they often just, slapdash job description and hope that, you understand what their business does. So even for us as recruiters, when we read a job description and we research a company, sometimes you don't understand what they're actually looking for. It makes sense to them because they're in it all the time. But I'm honest and I'm like, listen, just explain to me what your business needs as if I'm a dummy, like, or a 3-year-old. Just get very basic. And that's often time when you understand the best what they're looking for. So it's just pulling it back to basics, understanding the type of culture, the person that they're looking for. Yeah, and really just finding that match for them.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And how do you think about employee branding? Because everyone talks about it, but I'm not sure everyone actually gets what makes it work.
It's a hard one. I think often it's the perception of what a company is from their probably online presence or career fairs. It's often different to what the real culture is on the ground. And candidates are getting smarter and smarter. There are so many tools where they're not just looking at your social media pages, they're not just looking at your website. They're doing references on their end, they doing research on their end to ensure that the choice that they're making is also super aligned to what their career ambitions are. So as much as you as the company are, checking out your candidates, they definitely doing the same. And I think it's understanding that what you portray as a company on your social media or your website matches the actual on the ground culture, because it's quite easy to hit someone up on LinkedIn and say, hey, I see you working at this company, do you mind just giving me some feedback? Are you enjoying the job? Is this what it's really like? It's so easy to connect to people. So yeah, you always only like a step away from the truth. So I think it's really important to ensure that companies are transparent about who they are and what their values are, and what they're looking for.
Yeah, because like everything is out there, isn't it? You can find out everything, and yeah, the long gone are the days where you try to hide something. It's like you said, you can connect with anyone on LinkedIn, ask them any question, and you'll get the answers. So yeah, companies have to be very careful indeed, and also candidates as well. Like with your LinkedIn profile, that's another conversation, isn't it? You've got to have that LinkedIn profile up to date, matching your CV. Be careful what you post, what you engage with. It's a great thing, LinkedIn, but also can probably hinder you a little bit as well.
Yeah, 100%.
As we know, like tech moves so fast. Companies actually keeping up with how they need to hire and work, or a lot of them still kind of stuck in 2019.
Yeah, I think that's where little agencies have the edge, or from what I've seen, is that often companies are so bogged down with like really old legacy tech, and they have so much red tape and corporate red tape that it's almost impossible for them to be agile enough to move fast enough with the trends. And that's like our biggest business success is a little agile woman-owned business. We only like a phone call away from deciding on like, hey, there's this new AI tool that I just demoed and it looks amazing. What do you think? Should we go for it? We don't have like months of stakeholder meetings or migrations. We have a really agile little team that is super excited to be at the forefront of everything tech. And as soon as we decide, we can just quickly move and get things done and get things rolling. Whereas I find with bigger companies, obviously, what the scale that they're operating at and the different matrix levels of, authority that they have, that it's not that simple. And it definitely holds them back. But I guess, that's the beauty of outsourcing. So they could always come to us and, we could do it for them.
Yeah, I was having an exact conversation with someone else the other day about that, like how bigger companies are more kind of slower to adapt to tech because, like you said, there's so much red tape to go through to get everything cleared, and they probably doing all right as it is. So it's maybe a reluctancy to change anything as well. but that's definitely going to kind of bite them in the butt in a few years' time when everyone's kind of moving forward and they're still stuck in their ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about remote versus the office hiring debate. It's a big debate that's rolling on and on. What's your views on that?
As a business owner, we've tried it all. So we've done the remote only during COVID, which worked really well. We've done the hybrid, so in office and then remote. But I feel really like in office has been working the best for us. I see the difference in collaboration. I know from a candidate perspective, a lot of candidates often prefer the hybrid model, but most of our clients are moving back to the full time in office anyways. It's not as much as a discussion as it was, I would say, 2 years ago, where candidates were like, if there's no remote work, I'm not accepting an offer. So we are moving away from those conversations. And I think candidates are more willing to accept like an in office job right now in comparison to where we were like 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think hybrid is the answer there, isn't it? Like you said, we have moved on now. I think everyone's needs to be a bit more flexible, including the candidates and including the company as well. No, there's no real wrong answer there, is there? It's just some of it works for people, some of it doesn't. Yeah, I think as long as there's that flexibility, then that's the main
Mhm.
thing for
Yes.
sure. And yeah, if someone is kind of not doing well in interviews, what's the first thing you tell them to fix usually? Is it their resume? Is it their LinkedIn, networking, or is it just a combination of everything there?
I think definitely your social media presence, like we mentioned, is key. Nowadays, your portrayal of who you are on social media, perception is reality. So you could be a total different person in reality, but if that's not reflective on your social media, that's just the way it is. So I would definitely look at your social media as the first starting point. And then definitely like your resume as well, keep it to like a page. I know candidates often struggle with this and they're like, how do I put my whole 15 or 20-year career on like one page? But it is possible. So keep it brief, keep it simple, especially when companies are sifting through thousands of CVs. You need to stand out and just be concise and to the point. Yeah, I think for me, that's two of the biggest, like your CV and your social media is really the biggest. And then definitely like embed yourself into communities that you want to be a part of. So the networking, building your personal brand, all of that is really important.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, sure. What's coming next in recruitment? Are there any kind of innovations or changes you're excited about, or maybe a little bit worried about?
I guess AI is definitely a hot topic. We have been trialing out a whole lot of recruitment bots and seeing how good they are at replacing actual people. So we've actually trialed out about 3 different technologies so far, and we're kind of myth busting at the moment. So we like, will an AI bot really take over the job of a recruiter? So far, it hasn't worked out for us. So it hasn't fully been able to do what our actual recruiters do. But definitely, it's still in testing, beta testing. It does look hopeful for the future in terms of just streamlining and automating some of the tasks that are more admin based when you're dealing with volume agency recruitment. So it will definitely speed up those processes, help our recruiters basically spend more time on the quality side of things, in really giving our clients a good perspective and recommendations instead of just focusing on the process. So it does look hopeful. For me, I feel like it's still early days. We have a long way before it will be totally taken over by a bot, or depending how fast people are able to evolve the tech. But yeah, I think like the next year is going to be pretty interesting to see how we can leverage the technology and if there will be any external pushes to leveraging to force us to basically use the technology. But it's definitely an exciting time. We're excited to trial out the bots. We have quite a few pilot projects happening, and being a multilingual, bilingual agency where a lot of our candidates and clients speak French and English. Right now, we're struggling with a bot that can speak two languages. So, yeah, interesting times ahead, I think.
So where do you see Bolt heading over the next year or so? Any big moves or changes on the horizon?
We have opened quite a few new entities. So we've just opened a new entity in Ireland, and we're looking at the Middle East. More and more, we feel that recruitment is so closely related to global immigration, and the world is getting smaller and smaller. The candidate market is moving to hotspots. The Middle East is definitely one of those hotspots, where you've seen companies needing almost 69% or 71% more talent. Mm, And I think that that's where, for us as an agency, a lot of our clients are heading, to those hotspots, our candidates. So it's those global markets and really navigating how do we deal with the companies that are in your home country or in your home location, and how do you deal with candidates moving globally, and competing with these global companies. So it's a really interesting time, and it pulls you back to that EVP and, as a company who is staying behind and not moving to a global market, how do you retain talent? How do you stop the brain drain in your own country? How do you remain competitive? So these are all really, I think, global immigration and global work and critical skills across the world, are really hot topics at the moment.
Yeah, for sure. And for our audience, how can they find out a bit more about Bolt and connect with yourself?
Sure. So I am available on LinkedIn. I think any good recruiter is super active on LinkedIn. So you can find me on Asma Dinat. You can also find my CEO and founder, Vanessa Flynn. Our page is called Bolt Talent Solutions. Or you can also find us on our website, which is www.bolttalent.com.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Asma. That's been a great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time today. And yeah, this has been a Thought Leader Recruiter podcast, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you so much, Sam. Thank you for the opportunity.